Hello, everyone.
Hi there. Welcome to a new year, new decade. Same winning Wednesday.
Same girls.
That's right. The best girls.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Gabriela Vega. I'm an immigration attorney with Adair Thurston. And to my right, your left, is my fantastic friend, my darling boy, criminal defense lawyer extraordinaire, Brandon Katt. Brandon, say hello.
Hi, everybody. Friends. How are you? Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Sweetie. Happy New Year to you too. How was it? How was your holiday season?
It was awesome. We got to see our families.
Okay.
We had a really good time, recharged our batteries, and so we're ready to hit the new year strong.
Absolutely. I am so excited as well about this year. One of the things that we are going to be doing during the first part of the year is to provide all of you out there with some legal basics. We feel that these programs are a perfect vehicle for us to help you become better informed legal consumers. And so part of that requires that you guys just understand some of the basics of the work that we do and of the types of cases that you are wondering about. Because at the end of the day, this is what's going to help you find the right attorney, hopefully the attorneys at Adair Thurston, to help you with your situation. So today, Brandon and I are really excited. Brandon is obviously, you guys know, a wealth of information, a fountain of information. And so today,
a wealth of useless information, some would say.
No. If you were a wealth of useless information, that puts yourself on jeopardy.
Yeah, me
right,
too.
Right?
We'd be retiring.
That's right. Ken Jennings, watch out. Anyway, so enough of the horsing around. Today we are here to talk about criminal revocations. And for a lot of people, that revocation, even that word is kind of a confusing word. It's a term of art. So today what we're going to do is give you guys some criminal law basics and then talk about the purpose of today's program, which is how to address and the best things that you can do when you are being faced with a revocation. So, are you guys with me?
Let's do this.
Let's do this.
Okay,
so Brandon, on the title of our program, you can see that it says Criminal Defense Basics, Diversions, Probation, Parole, and Revocations. I think these are all terms of art. So why don't you start off by defining for us what each of these words mean and then giving us the language that we need to then go through the criminal basics.
Okay. So first off, a diversion. Number one, these terms, they're all going to need to be defined because otherwise this process does get confusing and unruly. Yes. So number one, diversion. Simply, it is a contract between you and the government, state, Perfect. City, whoever. And under that contract, you agree to do certain things. We call them terms. You agree to do those terms, and once those terms are completed, the case is dismissed. So no conviction there. And there can be some other implications for that too. But right. Quick and dirty, that's what a diversion is. Probation. Probation is going to look a lot like diversion, except for in order to be on probation, a conviction must have occurred. So we get the diversion in order to avoid the conviction. But in the event that a conviction does occur, you would be placed on either probation or parole. Parole simply happens if there is some kind of jail sanction imposed before we're released. Probation happens when we never go to jail, even after a conviction, but we're still subject to some kind of monitoring period.
Okay.
So those are the three kind of big events where revocations can happen.
Okay.
And so when we talk about a revocation, diversion, we talk about it as a term of a contract. A revocation is nothing more than an allegation that you have failed to meet one of the terms of that contract, or in the event of probation or parole, that you've failed to satisfy some kind of term of your probation or parole.
Okay, so that helps a lot, because I think that even learned people, if you're not a criminal defense lawyer, these words have special meanings within the criminal defense context, and so it is really important to have some basics. So to summarize, what Brandon has shared, correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon. Diversion happens before there's a conviction, and it's goes away if you complete it all successfully. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And probation and parole are what happens after you've had a conviction. You've been found guilty of something. Correct.
Correct.
Okay. And then if you fail to do one of the things within either of those, any of those contracts that you are subject to, then the city or state prosecutor can file a request to have that agreement taken back, and may potentially worse things happen as a result of the failure. Correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So now, obviously, my perspective is you should always talk to a lawyer. But if you have, for example, like the diversion, a lot of times people will enter into a diversion and not even talk to a lawyer because, hey, the prosecutor said I just need to fill out this application, and if I fill it out and pay some money, I will never even be convicted, right? So people get a sense of comfort by a diversion, right?
Right.
So if you've never had a lawyer, why should, if you did a diversion after that and you've been told of a revocation, why is it critical to hire a lawyer, and where in the time frame should you be doing that, Brandon?
Well, if you get notice of a revocation, you should hire an attorney pretty much immediately, right?
Okay.
In these kinds of cases specifically, time is really of the essence, because a lot of times, any kind of success that we're going to have here is a lot of times going to be negotiation. So I always tell people, find an attorney quickly, and primarily try and hunt for a local attorney, because anytime negotiation is the power tool that you're kind of relying on, somebody who is in that courtroom frequently is obviously going to have a better understanding of the power dynamics of that court.
Okay.
So I always recommend finding local counsel if you are facing something like this.
Of course.
Number 2 or 3, I lose count. Make sure that you're keeping proper documentation of these processes as well. But, in terms of what to do at the revocation stage, get to an attorney's office just as blindly quickly as you can.
Right, right, absolutely. And so a lot of times, you do need an attorney to help you with these types of things. And so let's talk about, to help people understand where the critical components are in a case, let's talk about the elements of a case. What are going to be some of the elements that lead up to diversion and then possibly a revocation?
So a lot of times with a diversion, for instance, we've got these terms in there: don't violate any local, state, or federal law, don't consume or possess any alcohol or illegal drugs, report to court services at the time that they direct, and comply with all the reasonable requirements of the court services officer, right? It's written like a contract.
Right.
The issues that happen when we, for some reason, fail that. So you talk about somebody who's like, I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to sign this contract. I feel this security. The thing is some people do diversions by themselves. That's an absolute fact. The fact of the matter is, though, just like your Apple iTunes, when you just hit I agree, you don't necessarily know what you've agreed to, especially if somebody hasn't boiled it down for you.
Yes, absolutely.
So after you've sold your soul, and, the fact is that, just like any other contract, you want somebody to help you boil that down. And frankly, now if you're being accused of violating that contract, now we need to get in there and say, okay, have we actually violated? And number 2, if we have violated, is there something we can do about it?
Gotcha.
Because, the end of a revocation, obviously, is being revoked.
Absolutely.
And that can have consequences for us as well.
Absolutely. Now, when you are at the point of a revocation, talk to me about what the revocation process looks like. You talked about a notice. What happens once you've been notified? I mean, how and I understand that negotiations involved, but what happens? Do you go into court and that's the day the only day you get, or what's going on?
Yeah, so you'll get a notice of hearing in the mail. or they might hand it to you. And
Right.
basically what it says is it should outline the allegations of how you failed to satisfy the terms of that, and it should tell you a court date when you have to appear.
Right.
Again, like I'm telling you, get into an attorney the moment you get that piece of paper, right? Because number one, you're gonna have to schedule an appointment, all that stuff. Number two, because that date on that piece of paper very well could be the date of the hearing of the revocation. Now,
Unless you make motions to try to delay it, or you have an attorney trying to negotiate it, that kind of thing.
right.
Okay.
And so, generally that's the stage where I would be asked to get entered into a case where somebody's received their notice and now they need help to figure out what to do about it. If an attorney like me or somebody else were to then enter their appearance, we could ask for more time in order to get more information, as well as have some time to speak with the prosecutor. A lot of times when I get these kinds of cases, people come in and they think, oh my gosh, you know what? I did fail to make that payment. I didn't pay. So I'm going to get revoked and I'm going to go to jail and I'm going to have this conviction on my record. Please stop right there. Like I said before, a lot of the power of having an attorney in these cases is negotiation. Sometimes we can pick up the phone, call the prosecutor, say, hey, money's an issue right now, something like that.
Can we have more time?
Can we have more
I
time?
got you.
Yes.
I got you. Okay.
Your voice is power in these kinds of instances, right? And in these cases in particular, it's super important that you find somebody to help you through this.
Absolutely.
And don't just accept that something bad is going to happen to you, because frankly, like there is somebody out there who can potentially help you. You just need to reach out to them.
Okay. Now let me ask you a question, Brandon. I mean, example, you've already signed that contract. You've already signed the diversion. You already went to court and been found guilty. You have probation or parole, and now you have revocation. What are prior to the revocation? I said revocation, but we're talking you've signed the contract, or you are told you're in probation or parole. What are the three best things that you can do before the revocation to make sure that you protect yourself?
Well, number one, do what you're supposed to do, right? Read the contract, read the probation terms, and follow them. Number two, if you have a hard time following terms or reading contracts, maintain constant contact with your court services officer or whoever's supervising you. It might annoy them that you're calling them or whatever. Schedule a once a month appointment with them. Just follow their directive and make contact with them. And if you're confused or you have questions about something you think you've missed, call them. And if you do end up having problems, call an attorney. Okay. And last, my biggest issue would be keep good records.
Absolutely.
Sometimes mistakes happen. Payment receipts get lost, whatever. Somebody doesn't get a certificate showing that they've done alcohol treatment class. It happens. Right. But if you keep good records of all the things that you're doing, then it should help you kind of it should help you see that
Yeah, right,
and help kind of avoid any of those issues.
Absolutely. Now, another question for you. What happens if you have been given notice of revocation? What are the top three things you can do after you've been given the notice, but before you've been told by the judge that yes, you are being revoked? So what are you get the notice? What are the three top things that you would recommend somebody do?
Well, number one, right? I'm going to get into contact with an attorney, but second to that, if there's some kind of outstanding obligation that you need to get done, try and get it done, right? Don't shut down. Don't just say, oh, well, I'm going to be revoked. This is over. Right. I always tell people in these kinds of cases, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Like, frankly, there's always generally somebody on the other side who's willing to work. I would say that it's the stark minority of cases where I have even a prosecutor on the other side who says, I'm just absolutely not willing to do anything to help your client. Generally, there are avenues for us to take. Okay. So again, it's about negotiation, and you can add or subtract just about anything as long as you're willing to ask for it.
Okay. Now,
and actually, we do have a question.
Oh, fantastic.
From Lonnie. If you complete a
Thank you,
diversion,
Lonnie.
yes, thank you, Lonnie. If you complete a diversion and then get charged for the same type of crime later, would it come back as a first or second conviction? That's actually a really good question.
That is a good question.
It's almost
What's
as
the answer?
if the person who asked it is law trained. So,
Thank you, Lawyer Lonnie. No, I'm
thanks,
kidding.
Lonnie, for that. Okay, so in terms of that question, it's really going to depend on the type of crime that's alleged. For instance, like in the state of Kansas, DUI is a crime where even if we complete a diversion successfully, right, and it's supposed to leave our record, and we're not supposed to have anything, follow us. Okay, fine. We come back and we pick up another DUI a year later.
Right.
That is still going to be charged as a second offense, as like a predicate crime is what we would call it. So a crime that they have to prove in order to show an enhancement. That is not true for every single crime. And I use DUI in that instance because that's the most specific example of where you could complete a diversion. It could be taken off, no conviction,
Right.
and then still come back as a second offense regardless.
Okay.
So for the majority of crimes, that won't be the case, but DUI is a very special example of that.
Absolutely. Well, and maybe in a couple of months, in a few months, we can have a little bit more discussion. I know in the past we've discussed some DUI basics.
Right.
Right. For those that are interested, I believe it was back in October.
Right.
There is a video on Brandon's page that you can go back and reference. And later on, we'll have another DUI program beyond the basics that
Right.
has a little bit more meat to that. But so thank you so much,
Yeah,
Lawyer Lonnie.
I hope I
for the
answered
great
your question, Lonnie. And if I didn't, you can always just PM me and we'll get it figured out. Okay, so we were talking about revocations. What are some things that I can do in the meantime, right?
Absolutely.
So when we get that notice of revocation, that's also going to be set for that revocation hearing, which is basically, it's not a criminal trial. At that revocation hearing, we're going to basically put on evidence that you either did or you did not satisfy a term of that contract or of your probation terms. And in that instance, that's kind of prior to that date is where we're going to be doing a lot of work. If we have something that we can do in order to kind of get that put back on the table or to repair a situation.
Right.
So making contact really quickly, super important in that respect, and helpful to getting it cleared up.
Absolutely. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about diversions, right?
Okay.
And part of, diversions always scare me a little bit because I feel like it seems like an easy way to handle a situation. But there are some people that should not just automatically sign the diversion that's given to them, right?
Yes.
Maybe... and obviously you know where I'm going with this.
Mm-hmm.
Our U.S. citizen friends, they have a completely different situation when it comes to diversions.
Right.
Why is it important that everybody who is a legal status in the U.S. other than U.S. citizen need to be talking to a lawyer from the beginning? I'm not talking revocation here. I'm talking, hey, I was charged with something. I was told there's a diversion, but is it too good to be true? What are your thoughts? Is it too good to be true, and why?
It can be too good to be true. And the why is because there can be special impacts on non-U.S. citizens in terms of criminal diversions.
Correct.
And immigration impacts, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And one of the real benefits of my practice is having Gabriela here to help, because anytime I have a client who's got some kind of immigration implication, I am always knocking on her door. And the reason being is because those clients can face harsher penalties. A lot of crimes have penalties, and most of the time that's money in jail. But
Right.
for non-U.S. citizen clients, that can also sometimes mean deportation.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's kind of a punishment worse than anything in misdemeanor court that you're going to get, right?
Absolutely.
So it's really important to protect those people. And a lot of times that can be done with just some word manipulation in those contracts to make sure that they satisfy immigration requirements, just in case we foresee a situation in the future.
Absolutely. Now, with that being said, what are some things that our friends who are other than U.S. citizens should be doing when they have been advised, either because they received a warrant or a notice or a ticket even, of the beginning of a criminal action? What are some steps that they should take?
Well, I think that they should immediately speak to a lawyer, especially if they have some kind of warrant activity, because we're going to want to get that taken care of. Mostly, getting warrants removed, so that way we can actually resolve the remainder of the case.
Absolutely.
But then in terms of resolution of the case, making sure that we don't have any kind of penalty that is going to subject them to an adverse immigration action.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of things that for some people, i.e. U.S. citizens, can be not a big deal, that can be much harder for our friends, our immigrant friends. So it's really important that any kind of criminal case, any kind of notice that a criminal case is being starts off with talking to a criminal defense lawyer. And if the criminal defense lawyer explains to you and asks them, if you notifying the criminal defense lawyer that you have a status other than U.S. citizen, and if that criminal defense lawyer is not able to explain to you immigration impact, that's okay. Ask them to help you find an immigration attorney that can help you guys, that can consult with you on your case, because these diversions, as Brandon has explained, are contracts, and are contracts that can be manipulated to help protect you as much as possible.
Yeah. And this might be one of the most controversial things I say all day today. But for the most part, prosecutors are pretty friendly people when I work with them. They don't yell and scream at me. And most of the time when I tell them that we've got some kind of immigration implication, they're willing to work with me to try and resolve that, because the fact of the matter is, they really don't want to see people being sent out of the country for misdemeanor charge. I mean, the vast majority of people, right?
Absolutely.
So there's, again, your best option is always your voice. Just speak out, tell us what's going on, what your concerns are, and we can try and worry about crafting a solution to that.
Absolutely.
So
now, I also noticed that one of our dear friends, Charlie Copeland, has asked another question. So do you want to read the question aloud? And Charlie is known for excellent questions, so I think this will be a good question to help all of us.
So Charlie asks, with jobs that require you to notify them about substance arrest charges, especially such as DUIs, do they need to notify their employer about a hearing such as this?
So a revocation hearing, that's a great question. I wouldn't know. I mean...
Well, and I am going to probably give a dissatisfying answer.
Okay.
Number one, I think that the obligation that they would have would probably be that of policy. Meaning, does the company have a policy that you need to do that? And I think that if they did, there could be a potential that you would have to. For some professional licenses that are held, you have reporting requirements if there's something. And
not just to the company, but to a board, a certifying board, a nursing board, teachers board. You don't know. I mean, I don't know. Am I right? Is that a good? Is that?
Well, and I would say too, for the most part, the criminal world doesn't impose obligations on people to notify their employer of those things. That would most likely be a policy of the employer saying, you need to notify us in the event of this. And the reason I say that is because if our diversion gets revoked and it becomes a conviction, now we have changed status. We were charged with a crime and now we have been convicted of it. And so if that company has that policy, it is best to definitely consult an attorney about that individual policy and see if there's some way of working with that. But in terms of the imposition of the criminal law, no. Criminal courts generally will not make you tell your employer that you were arrested or convicted. And frankly, a lot of people worry about their employers finding about that in the newspaper.
Right.
And so we do live in the digital age. It is kind of difficult to conceal some of those things, but in terms of an obligation to report, I think that's a company thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we've been talking about the importance of getting good legal help for these types of cases, and
Right.
I believe that Adair Thurston has excellent legal help. We
Right.
have great criminal defense
We do.
lawyers.
Yeah.
You, Tom, John, you guys work very hard on your cases. Why don't we share with everyone what our area is? What counties do we cover? Where would you guys go do a criminal defense case?
I've gone as far as Douglas County. Actually, all of us have gone as far as Douglas County, Saline County in terms of east-west.
Okay.
And then we've gone north all the way to Marshall County. I was like 15 minutes from Nebraska one day. And then south we've gone as far down as like Morris County. So there's a pretty big circle that we do, like Fort Riley, Geary County, Wabaunsee County, Pot County.
Absolutely.
Big circle.
Absolutely.
A lot of miles on my poor car.
And if people wanted to get a hold of us, because they do have more diversion, probation, revocation, immigration questions that they might have, how could they reach us, Brandon?
So my email is brandon@adairthurston.com. You can also reach out to us by phone, 785-776-2000. You can reach out to us through
our website has a contact form.
Yes, our website.
Ultimately, we have even an answering service, even
Correct,
after hours.
yeah.
So if you call 785-776-2000, you can set up with one of these great guys, Brandon, John, Tom.
Or Gabriela.
Great.
If you just want to come say hi to us.
That's right. In closing, any thoughts on what maybe we haven't covered? Is there something that I've missed that I should not have?
Well, I honestly think, the one thing that I would leave everybody with, I always do one of these when I talk to people one-on-one. If you forget everything else I told you today, here's what I want you to remember, right? And here's what I want you to remember. Make sure you are reading the terms of those diversions. Make sure that you are making contact with your court services officer and trying your best to comply. If you can save the money by not having to hire me in the first place, good. I hope you do. But in the second instance, if you don't, if you mess up, if something happens and you're looking at a revocation, don't shut down, don't lose hope, reach out, call somebody, try and get some work done on it, because the fact of the matter is, the vast majority of cases like this that I have handled, we have been able to get something done to help somebody in a way that they would have not gotten by themselves. So please reach out to somebody. You can reach out to us. Again, 785-776-2000. And I really appreciate the fact that you guys were here with us today.
Absolutely. For all of you that are interested, that have been following Winning Wednesdays, we have a great lineup for the month of January. Next week, we're going to be doing immigration basics. Brandon and I will be back. Woo woo! Immigration basics.
Oh, don't forget to plug our talk either.
Oh, that's right. Well, yes.
We'll plug it later.
I forgot to check the date on it. I'm so sorry. So that's why you said that.
Well, that's okay. Gabriela and I will be giving a talk on crimmigration, so criminal law and immigration law, kind of
the intersectionality and how it impacts immigrants.
And we will get that date posted onto our Facebook pages. Just in
Kansas State
case.
University International Student Service Center is where we hold that presentation this
and they're so gracious.
Every spring. So gracious. Thank you.
We love them. And so
additionally, next week we're doing the the immigration basics. The week following that is my friend Lisa Ward and I talking about special needs trusts. And then we're going to close out the week. We're going to introduce our fabulous Autumn Fox, our new family law attorney.
Yes, you guys are going to love her.
She's going to be talking about, Brandon, child support.
Oh,
We're going to be
wow.
talking about child support guidelines, giving people a basic to understand the responsibilities of paying child support and the requirements in Kansas. So we're very
Dang.
excited, you guys. We have a month filled with excellent information to help you become better informed legal consumers. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
We appreciate you all.
Bye.
Have a great day and a great evening and a great rest of the week.
That's right. Thanks, guys.